still in session, never actually went out, so, Tim, do you have anything you want to say before we get started?
I think you've got three good choices, and I don't know how to offer you guidance on this very difficult selection. I think all three are capable, have experience. They all have different personalities.
Boy, don't they.
That's the biggest difference I see, is their personality, the way of getting it done. But I don't have a problem working with any of the three, but I don't know how you choose, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know how to offer it.
All right.
How did you choose the three?
By their experience, their capabilities, they've done a lot of school, they had a commitment to local,
We met very
you know,
similar to how we did the
presence.
architects. I mean, we had how many submissions?
Oh, on
There
this,
was-
we had, I don't know, 18.
Yeah, I mean, there was a whole bunch, and Mr. Craig, Tim and I, we sat down and really kind of used the same criteria that we used for the architect selection.
Local played a local presence played a pretty big role.
Yeah, and just, there were, quite honestly, there were some other good folks in the initial.
Schools that, these folks had a lot of school experience. That was a big,
Yeah, exactly.
as opposed to just general construction.
Yeah, so we just narrowed it down to these three, and, I think we did a pretty good job. I mean, I think it's gonna be a tough decision to make on this, but it's basically the same type thing that we did with the architect selection. So, well, I'm kind of keeping with how we did the architect selection. We'll just kind of go around the room if you want to talk about plus or minuses, or if you have a ranking that you want to throw out there, or whatever. Since I went last time, I'll start first.
Okay, you're looking at me, I was
So,
waiting for you
yeah, I
to
know.
point
I
on me.
thought
I
about
don't like to be in that
throwing you
chair.
under the bus.
One question, when it's our turn to do that, can we ask some, I have a couple questions from Mr. Curley, or would you prefer those to be asked?
No, you can ask them whenever.
When it comes to my time?
Yeah,
Okay.
whenever.
I just
yeah.
want to check.
Yeah. So, one thing that was talked about in the second meeting and the third, but not discussed in the first, was the idea of this sub-guard thing. Sort of ran into that situation with the last schools, and I like that. I don't know if Hickory Construction, if that's an option with them. It probably is. I'm sure anybody in the industry could get it. But like the third group said, I think that's something that we look at the cost of and determine if that's how important it is based on the cost of that. So I think that's something that we
Is that a
look-
cost, may I ask?
Mhm.
Is that a cost we would incur, or a cost
Well,
that
ultimately,
they?
yes.
Yeah.
Ultimately, we.
You pay for everything.
I mean, anytime you require a bond, they're gonna work the cost of that bond into their price. So, I mean, ultimately, and that's why I think it's important that we look with them to kind of see what that's gonna cost us, to do that. So, I think they said generally, 1.5%? Did I hear that number?
Yes.
1.5%?
That's about right.
So, all right, so in regards to Hickory, I really liked the fact that their superintendent and their assistant superintendent both live here in our area. I think that was a big plus. And something that I kind of see as a plus is the fact that there's not a partnership. It's them. And I'm not sure how, and Mike, maybe you can help us, if that's a big deal or not. I don't know if it is, but I sort of like the fact that the buck stops in one place, but then that may not really be an issue in a situation like this in a large construction. Who would sign the documents?
Well, I think it's a joint entity. They created a legal entity. And so there would be someone from each previous entity signing. So if it's Barnhill, Beverly, Grant, they said it was going to be a 50-50 situation. where does the bond come from would be a question.
Okay.
Does it come out of one contractor, or is it bought by both contractors? I don't know how those situations work.
Have you ever worked with a situation like this?
No, sir, I've not worked with a joint venture.
Okay, and that's fine, I just, so, you know, the fact that they're bonded, how that happened, I guess, is up to the bonding company and making sure. So ultimately, I guess, the bond is who would answer to any sort of situation that if we ran into a situation, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I liked, I mean, Hickory, even though they say Hickory, they do a lot of work around here. I was kind of joking, but they used to buy a lot of fire extinguishers and stuff from us when we did that kind of business prior to 2005. So I know they've been in this area for a very long time. And so in regards to the Beverly and Barnhill group, you know, here again, I don't know about the partnership thing, if it's a big deal or not, but this is something new. Obviously, they're both the second and the third group. It was a pretty new endeavor, and they both have only started working on one project each. So there's not a completed project that they've done. I sort of see that a little bit of a negative, but both of those, the companies have very good reputations separately. So I don't see where that.
But I think they both had completed some projects together. Where they hadn't completed them was in Asheville.
No, I don't think so.
I'm gonna pull a laptop out, because I had that same thought going into today about that.
Okay.
And I thought
But
that they had it in their
One of
paperwork.
them have worked for
Beverly, Grant, and Barnhill had they were on their first project together, but they had sort of a relationship going where they were talking about doing this for a year or so beforehand.
Their superintendent, which may or not be a big deal, lives in Burlington. Okay. But one big plus that I see in their favor is the fact that they had just recently finished costing out Asheville Middle School. I think that's huge. Whether that puts them first or not necessarily, but I think having that.
Their current data is
Yeah,
current.
yeah. I mean, I think that's a big plus for them. So Patton, again, the partnership is new. They've not really completed the project together, even though I'm sure they've done some things. They said they've had a 4-year relationship, but Patton was basically Buncombe construction before, and they both have good reputations. So, and then their superintendent is from Weaverville, and I think.
And that makes everything better.
That does. I mean, that's just a big plus that he's from Weaverville. So.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's a positive?
What did you say?
To be if I had to rank it, my 1 and 2, and this is really
We do this every time.
no particular order. My first, Hickory and Beverly would be my top choices, and then Patton and Rittenbach would be last. That's just my personal opinion, just kind of throwing them out there. So, but I'm still up in the air between Hickory and Beverly. So somebody convince me one way or the other. So, Mr. Pat?
Are you going this way?
Yes.
Tim, or someone, the GMP, I think I've got that right, the GMP schedule, is that right? Am I using the right acronym, GMP?
The GMP is the guaranteed maximum price.
My question
contract.
my question on that is, there were 3 different discussions about that from all 3, and they all kind of had 3 different dates. It would seem to me that that's more tied in here as to when that will occur than really what they said to us. Am I accurate in that or not?
Probably, the big driver is the schedule. I'm gonna let Mike address it as well. But part of it is our financing for, a loan, that we have to have that number in order to, and Chad, help me out too.
Yeah.
That's, you gotta have that number kind of early
By about November, right?
to, at least,
Yeah.
to be able to put that into the system and the LGC and get your loan so that we aren't a holdup for the construction, because you've approved a chunk of money to do the site package, hire the architect, do the fee for the construction manager, but that's all. We can't go to construction unless we do something different to the loan.
Okay.
So
So
that's
should
critical.
I or the board be concerned that I kind of heard that it presented in three different manners, or no?
I mean, you do something early, it's gonna be less accurate than if you wait a little longer. So, but there's conversations going on between Mike and the GC, they're the CMR, before you actually get that
Well,
number.
there's a sequential
So-
process that's gonna play itself out.
The normal sequence is that you do not get there's an initial GMP and then a final GMP. You might get the initial before I'm finished, but normally you would get the final guaranteed maximum price after my documents are completely done. In this case, if you're going to try and get into the financing flow of the LGC, I think that is for a December meeting. They meet the first Tuesday of December. Then you have to be in their docket
A month
a
before.
month. They'll make some exceptions for stuff like the number, maybe 15 days, but your package has to be on their docket at a month ahead.
Local government commission.
Thank you.
So then, backing into that, then add another month earlier before they can, I have to have enough information on paper for them to be able to put that number out to the subcontractors to get an accurate number. So probably what you will have is a higher, slightly higher number in the term of a contingency amount buried inside the package. And so it's a risk, but how much of a risk is it? And for me, I've kind of been anticipating this in the beginning. The way that I'm going to produce the drawings is kind of unusual. I'm going to basically have a sketched layout of every drawing on the entire set out there. And then drawing by drawing, I'm going to finalize those drawings. But the sketched layout would be enough for a subcontractor, in conjunction with the other drawings that are final, to be able to say, I understand your intent. I don't have it all, but I've got the general picture. There's no surprises. You know, I've got some bearing heights and materials and stuff on these sketches that can allow them some comfort level to reduce that contingency. And I'm doing that so that we can get this kind of price a little bit earlier. It also helps us internally to know where we're going and everybody else know where we're going. So if they can give you a price, it'll be not as accurate, but it'll be close.
And one last quick question before I kind of go through my notes before and after today. Tim, it was interesting to me that all three had a different completion date in May of 2016. They all had different specific dates. How did that?
Yeah, we had
And
May.
it doesn't
31st,
matter, but I'm
not
just
quite
curious.
sure, and then one was May 6th.
May 3rd, May 20-something, May, I forget what they were.
That's
May
a schedule-
31st.
That's a schedule nuance. When they're building those schedules, they've all built, that the days may be one or twosies off here and yonder, but it ends at the tail end, it gives you a different date.
Okay.
So,
Off of a computer template type.
And none of those dates are critical.
Right, I just was
Really,
curious.
at that point, if we were saying the completion date was August 1st and someone's tweaking it, I'm nervous.
I would get a big X by then.
Yeah.
my thoughts on the three, coming into today, and I told a couple of this, in looking through all the information they had provided, I fully expected before today to have a 1, 2, and a 3 in my mind coming in, and then that might have changed based on information. I wasn't able to do that going into today. I had a 1A, a 1B, and a 1C, based on what I was looking at and studying before today. Some things that jumped out at me today, I really enjoyed with Beverly Grant and Barnhill. You talked about value engineering and connected it. And I'm not sure specifically how to say it, but I didn't just hear the word, I actually saw some examples and some discussion of, and they tied it in some to this booklet. All three groups had the opportunity to put these types of things together. This was helpful to me, even though we just touched on some areas. As I flipped through some pages, it said some things to me in terms of organization and preparation that were important. I agree with some of what you said. I wasn't as concerned about the superintendent and some of those folks actually living here or not living here as what I heard from all three of them about hiring local subs. Wherever the company is located, they're close enough that they're going to have whoever those people are. They're either going to be renting homes or in hotels, or so they're going to be here most of the time. So that to me wasn't as big an issue. I thought today clearly I have a 1A and a 1B, and I now have a 2. For me, and the sub-guard part, and my last question to you two over there, I didn't really get an answer from Rettbach Patton, at least in my mind, and I may just not understand well enough. But I asked specifically about the sub-guard because they mentioned it, and we heard it from Beverly Grant and Barnhill. As I heard Beverly Grant and Barnhill talking about that, there was a specific dollar amount, and anything at that number above, those folks were going to be bonded. If they didn't have it on their own, then they were going to do it through how they do it, through their company, is what I heard. But I didn't hear that. Should I, because I value your two opinion as you work in this. This is not something we as a board do every day. Should I see any difference or have any thought process as it related to what Beverly Grant talked about that versus what Brett and Bob talked about that?
In my opinion, a dollar amount is only one factor. There's certain subs that are critical to the success of the project whose dollar value might be more or less than another one. But if you know that you have a control system that, probably in my experience, is the bugaboo that always happens, I'm probably going to make sure I get somebody really good for that. Drywall, I can replace that. It's not a big deal. It's a finish. There's 10 guys out there.
Mechanical, electrical.
But their dollar value could be huge. It could be but it's easier to replace. So I think that's what Rettenbach was trying to say, that we're going to look at them on an individual basis and not have this dollar amount. I'm going to look at it based on my schedule and what's important, critical, whether they're local, and look at them and make an evaluation. So, and I think that's fair.
It doesn't mean you don't have a bond on them. The bond is carried through to the general to the CM.
Right.
And his people. So they have to have a bond also. The subs bond actually covers the general contracting side of the equation.
Yeah, and Pat, just talking about, both of the other schools that we built were bonded, but one required a bond of the subcontractors, and the other one did not. The problem, it's not that it's not going to get done, or that, it's a matter of how long is it going to take to get it done. Because if you have to go to war with the bonding company, well, then your project's going to be pushed way back, and so
but there must be some difference, or they would all have the same dollar amount. I mean, there has to be, or they would all say at $500,000.
It's just a business decision. How much internal risk are they willing to take?
But then that risk comes to us, right?
No. They
At
go to
the end of the day, it comes to us in terms of scheduling and timing, I would think.
yes.
Sort of.
Not in terms of money, but in terms of that part of it.
If
Maybe
the
risk
GC
is probably the wrong word. But
if the CMR has a bond has that subcontractor covered by an insurance policy, whether it's a bond or a Zurich insurance policy, they're probably going to be more aggressive in moving our schedule forward, because ultimately, they might have to go to war with the bonding company, this other bonding company, but they're gonna have a level of assurance that they're gonna be able to recover something, ultimately. Maybe not today,
Right.
but they probably will move forward and, put themselves at more risk by laying out more money to buy a replacement contractor, because they know that ultimately they can recover something on the back end.
Ms. Baldwin?
Is-
Oh, I'm sorry, Pat, were you finished?
No, I think I am, I don't remember. For me, it was Beverly Grant, Barnhill was 1A, Hickory was 1B, and Rettenbach Patton was a notch lower. I was comfortable really with 1A and 1B.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to this. I'm just gonna ask, is Beverly Hanks any related to Beverly Grant?
No.
No.
I just didn't know for sure.
No.
Okay.
Beverly Hanks is George Beverly and Neil Hanks.
Okay.
Neither of
Many
which
years
were
ago.
in this room.
No.
No.
Just curious. I did like Bob said, that Hickory Construction was one company and not a joint venture. My issue with Beverly Grant is the Asheville Middle School is costing $41 million. And I asked about the square footage at 178,000. I mean, that's over $200 per square foot, and I don't know what all kind of extras they're throwing in there with the city schools are asking for. But I believe the commissioners had some issues with that. Initially, it was even higher than 41 million. So that kind of.
Well, I think part of it,
Mhm.
I think part of that is how they're having to do it.
Because they're not leaving.
Because it's
Yeah,
not
they're having to stay on one side,
Right.
Yeah.
quasi renovate part of that side where they're moving to the other
Right.
side.
And then I think that they just have a lot of extras built in.
Yeah, that's going to
To
be
quite
probably
honest
the
with you.
best state-of-the-art middle school in
Yeah.
the nation.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
They just offer more programs, they just have a lot more spaces
Yeah.
than,
I think a lot of that has to do
And
with the
special
direction
needs
that you
stuff.
have sent your architect in,
Mhm.
so.
Right. I actually did talk to the architect firm for Asheville Middle School. They said the downside of working with this construction manager at risk on this project was that really there's supposed to be collaboration, and maybe Mike can help me with this, with the architect in advance, but that's just not really happening. So that was the only bad thing that I heard from that firm on this Asheville Middle School project, was it just doesn't really happen that the contractor collaborates with the architect in advance. And also Hickory Construction said they would pre-qualify the subs, and I don't know if that's part of this, what we're talking about, the bonding issue with the subcontractors. If this pre-qualification process is weeding out the contractors that are not maybe at the top of the heap or whatever. If I don't know if anybody can answer that.
I think, didn't all companies say they were pre-qualified?
They all have to pre-qualify their first-tier subcontractors. They're required to by law.
And I'm sure that includes financial and past.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
work.
well, yeah, you're going to get that in the September board meeting.
Right.
The law has changed, and you're going to have to be very hands-on as to, you have to dictate the policy in which you want pre-qualified. Like what they wrote in that document may or may not be what ends up being the pre-qualification policy of Buncombe County Schools.
I'm sure they're all aware of the new laws.
Oh, yeah, yeah, but you get to craft whatever you like, and that is a policy that will come to you on September the 4th, which will be used for this project.
Yeah, and the short period of time that the Beverly Grant and Patton companies had worked with their partners, you know, just was concerned to me as well. The 1.5 years for Beverly Grant, I think, and 4 years for Patton Construction Partnerships. Again, the cost of Asheville Middle School, you know, is just astronomical for the square footage, and the fact that that Beverly Grant didn't collaborate with the architects, from what I heard from the architect that I talked to. You know, those are concerns I have. And the scheduling, I think that Hickory Construction talked about Brian Teester. Yeah, I liked what he had to say about scheduling. I felt pretty confident in them getting jobs done on time. And I do have a question for Mr. Fearley about, because we're talking about the geothermal just now before the meeting, before we started discussing this, and the fact that the Evelyn and Kuntz schools had to have units just put in over the summer so that they could separately air condition the office areas there. Was that not part of the initial plan? Because
Yes, well, I
wasn't.
think that's.
I mean, is that part of? I'm getting because I want to make sure it's part of the initial plan for this school.
It will be.
It is.
Because I just didn't.
Those schools were, 30% more energy efficient than, a school, a touchstone school, and that wasn't necessary to get us there to that level. But we think it's a good thing to do, and Mike is incorporating that in here. So we're going to be even more energy efficient, on those schools than Lead Silver, which is 30% more. So.
Yeah, so I would rank, Hickory Construction #1 in my mind.
Okay.
I'm Beverly Grant first and Hickory second, and the other one didn't get it, and for me. And part of it is the energy that's in the room for me. The Hickory Construction had a lot of positive energy and presentation, but I felt a stronger working relationship with Beverly Grant than I did with the other two altogether. The way that the group, these are things that are important to me, the way that the group interacted in Beverly Grant, it wasn't just one person. They seemed to have a working knowledge of what each other did, and that they could work off of each other in their presentation. And I believe that things like that transfer to the work site.
They did have a Wake Forest graduate on their team. That probably helped quite a bit.
Yeah. I'm sure it did, Bob. He paid an awful lot for that education. Far more than I did for mine. And then Hickory Construction, Beverly Grant was first. It seemed that the team was tighter, and I don't know.
Gosh, it's a tough decision.
It is awful.
I mean, awful. I just wish that either Beverly or Hickory would have been bidding against the other, or presenting against the other guy, because they're both good. There's no question in my mind. They were both very good. I felt like Beverly Grant came a little more prepared, just a tad more prepared, and I feel like they are actually more local than Hickory.
Mhm.
That's a big deal to me. I felt like that they were just more local, but whichever way we go with either one of those would be,
I don't think we're going to lose.
no.
I mean, I would just echo what Bob said. The joint venture thing is a concern of mine, and neither the Beverly or Patton had completed a job together. And I just can't imagine that they would be able to work as closely together. Two huge companies work closely together when they don't have experience of working closely together before.
So how do you get experience?
I also, I like the idea of having a local superintendent and a sub-superintendent that's local. I thought it was real, to me, that from talking to them, the key, and from past conversations, the key is grading and site prep, and I thought it was pretty amazing that they already talked to 3 people and had them lined up and could theoretically start tomorrow, which I know would be probably realistic. And then the size thing is interesting because to me Hickory Construction is big enough to do the job, but it's not so big that this is just one of their jobs. They seem to really want the job, and I think it would be very important for them to have this job. And that's probably true with Beverly, but is it true with Barnhill? Or is it true with Rettenbach? And it just seemed like the right size for what we're trying to do. I thought it's huge benefit that Beverly's and Barnhill are doing the middle school. They've already done all this work 6 months ago, so I think it's huge. They seemed a little bit more sophisticated in their technology. They're younger, which is sort of a trade-off. Do you want more experience? Do you want more cutting-edge technology? You know, that's just kind of a difference. But I have Hickory Construction first. So we're at, what are we at? I don't know. Oh, you gotta make the decision. You never figured it out.
I didn't fully commit, did I?
So which will it be, Bob? Are you gonna draw straws or?
Can I mention something else?
Sure, sure. If anybody else has anything else to say, we're in no
liked
hurry.
When the Hickory Construction guy opened up, I mean, he kept emphasizing the general statutes, 143-128 and 129 or whatever, some others too, and how they would stick to that. And nobody else mentioned that, and to me that speaks to integrity or ethics perhaps, I don't know, but it seemed like, you know, they're going to do it by the book, which I think is important. And there's another thing I was thinking of too. But I just thought I would throw that out there too, because
Yeah. Well, you know, Jim, I thought about it, I didn't say anything about it, but I think you're right. I sort of have this gut feeling, I guess, that Hickory is the right size for us. Like you said, I hadn't really thought about it that way, but that's exactly how I feel. I just kind of have the feeling that they're the right fit for us at this time. You know, I think the contractor that we've used for the STEM school has been the right fit for that project, and I think that's important. You know, obviously, you know, Barnhill has got some major experience with major projects. I mean, so as far as the ability to do this project, there's no question about it. So I guess if which I'm going to have to, I guess I would have to put Hickory first too. But I mean, it's just, you're splitting hairs between those two, I think. I mean,
I think what you just did was you created a tie.
You did.
Yeah.
You did.
Creative.
We only got 6.
yeah.
well, I know what Ann said about,
Just like
we were in this
Although we
room
haven't
with
taken
Beverly
notes,
Grant.
so just-
I think we were in a more intimate space, a smaller space too, that kind of influenced the way that we felt about the people, and, you know, what you were saying about how they seem to be working together. But I think we also have to separate it from the space too, that we were in the smaller space, and they were closer to us, and that sort of influences things a little bit too. I noticed that when we did the architects too.
Yeah. Anybody else have anything they'd like to say or ask? Or?
I'm gonna put, I mean, I told you, you know, they were both, but I'm gonna put Beverly Grant because, like I say, it seems more local. I mean, that's the reason.
Well, I'm not questioning it at all. But I don't.
This has got a question mark after it.
No,
but
no,
he's
I
not
just
doing
didn't get that. I'm completely clueless on who these people are in terms of where they live. I mean, I don't know these people, but why is, because Beverly is based in Asheville and Hickory's based in Hickory, is that the
Yeah, sure,
difference?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and you mentioned, I think, the superintendent is local. What did that,
Hickory is.
what did that, when you were talking about Hickory, what did that mean to you? Because there was a couple, there's one or two, and I'm
It-
trying to find it
it
living in
seemed
Hayward
like-
County. So I just want to know what
Yeah,
what
Hickory,
that,
yes.
what that
Well,
meant
to
for
me,
you.
in terms of local, I thought the whole team of Hickory Construction is more local than the whole team of Beverly Barnhill. Because that they didn't say where these other people were from when they were going through.
Well,
The
you
one
can look,
person-
you can look real quickly,
Yeah, sure.
and you can see their phone numbers and tell where they're from.
Yeah.
I mean, so,
If you look where it's in the phone
I
book.
kind of agree with Chip. I did feel like
I thought
that they were,
Black
I
Friday
did
was
feel
local.
more connected with them as far as that issue with, locality. I mean, I'm not gonna make that my final.
Hickory or Beverly? Which one did you pick?
Hickory, I felt was more.
Uh-huh.
To me, it was a trade-off of local, which was Hickory, versus expertise, cutting edge, newness,
Data.
because they were young, computers, iPads.
That would be meaningful to you.
No, but that was
It was a little
Barnhill.
noticeable.
Yes, it was.
But I think there's going to be a difference, and to me, that's somewhat of a strength of Barnhill. But I went back to more of the local feel that I got, which was Hickory.
I think the data piece is really strong for Beverly Grant, Barnhill. Because, well, we won't be paying for it. They've already,
With the middle school?
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah, with Ashland. Dun,
Can
dun,
I ask a
dun.
question about the construction manager at risk? I mean, I know this was approved on June 30th, and that was in the architect contract,
I
which
didn't hear the first
oh,
part of that.
the construction manager at risk to use that method
Yes.
instead of bidding this out.
Yes.
And I don't think we really talked about it at the June 30th meeting that much, but is there a reason that you chose to use the construction manager at risk process?
That's a Tim question.
Okay.
Y'all,
I'll address it. I mean, just to be quite honest with you, after the debacle that we went through with the last contractors with low bid, who you have no choice as long as they're deemed responsible bidder, you have to go with them. Doesn't matter if they're from Canada, doesn't matter if they're from North Carolina, South Carolina, you have to go with them. With this process, you have more control over the construction process. Now, you may end up paying a little bit more, okay? But you're gonna be better off, I feel, with the delivery of the school and the control that you have over subcontractor. I mean, to have a little bit more control, those sorts of things. And I think it makes it, more of an on-time project. You don't get that fighting over this guy's responsible or that guy's responsible. That's not.
It seems to me like with the construction management thing, we've hired a lieutenant. And that lieutenant is going out and doing our
Yeah.
work for us.
Yeah, so it's you're trading off of control versus paying a little bit more for that, and it seems to be becoming more and more prevalent.
Avery County Schools is the construction manager.
So is this something the public sector is using more than the private sector that?
Well, the private sector doesn't have to do bids.
They don't, they do a kind of a negotiated project. So what Hickory said, I think, was really accurate. We've been doing construction manager at risk for 20 years. It just hasn't been called that
Right.
in the private sector because they can do whatever you want in the private sector.
Any private person or company can go to anybody and say, hey, we want to build this, what's it going to cost? All right, let's talk about that a
Yeah.
little bit.
Well, I think Mr. Grant said the same thing, didn't he? We've actually been doing this since we started, but just
Yeah.
with different terminology. So I think from their, it's new for us maybe, but
Sure, yeah, yeah.
from their perspective, it's a.
It's not new to Buncombe County.
Business as usual.
Buncombe
Right.
County has been
County.
doing it for a
County
while.
government.
Yeah,
County government.
they've been doing it for a while.
It's also a little bit quicker, isn't it? In terms of total time frame or not? Is that,
I don't know, would you say it is?
not really? That wasn't part of the process?
Well, you eliminate a lot of potential issues that you have to slog through during construction that slow things down. You eliminate that in the beginning, so, yeah, you might see a time savings because all if we'd have had somebody telling us, no, you should really do this because it's gonna take us 10 more days
Right.
to do it like you designed it. Oh, I'll switch to the, less than 10 days.
And also, you might get a bad surprise on bid day. You don't know, like they said, you don't know till you open
And they
that.
couldn't do I mean, we wouldn't be.
And you
able
have to
do it.
start, you have to negotiate or have to go back to the architect and
rebid.
say, hey, redesign this.
And we
So-
couldn't do the pre-site bid.
We could, yeah, we could bid that out as a separate
Could we?
package.
But
Yeah.
you don't get a connection between.
Yeah.
That's what worries me.
The next guy says, well, the
Well,
site
they
guy
didn't
did
do
that
that.
job.
Yeah,
And
that's
that's
his
why,
fault.
and you're gonna get that. You
Yeah.
definitely are gonna get that. And so I need more money, you
We
know?
had historically avoided that like the plague
Yeah.
if we could.
Yeah.
And when I was talking with Tim about the cost, and correct me if I'm wrong, you said we wanted to stay between 150 and 160 dollars per square foot.
Yeah.
Approximately. And again, like I said, the Asheville Middle School is over $200 a square foot.
But I really think you're comparing apples and oranges with
Yeah,
Well, I
that
know,
Asheville
but I
Middle
think, I see what you're saying.
It's programmatically driven.
So
The
is
construction manager at risk isn't driving that.
No.
Isaac Dixon is over $200 a square foot.
And
too.
all they
Those are
can
two
get-
city schools, that's probably the more
The
common.
county's
Might tell
paid
you
for both
something.
of them and for ours too.
They have a different program than we do,
So,
you know?
why?
They just have a,
Yeah, why is the county giving, to me, that's favoritism, that they're willing to spend more money on the city schools than they are on the county schools.
That's a whole nother discussion, that's for sure.
It's interesting.
Yeah, more schools.
I don't have a dog in that fight.
Well, we do in a way, but, but you know what, I think our program that we have set forth is a good program. I don't, Asheville City is a different school system. I think that we're providing very adequate facilities for our kids, so. Anyone else have anything, questions or any more discussion?
I do, nobody else does.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Still along these lines with the construction manager at risk, I talked to an expert at DPI from school planning, an architect there, and his personal opinion was that he preferred the traditional bid method, and his concerns with the construction manager at risk, and I don't know if there's anything we can put in place now to avoid these issues. He said it could affect the delivery and quality adversely.
Who said that?
This was a
Can we
architect.
focus on we've already decided to do the construction.
Haven't we already made the decision that we're going to? Clear it up for me, Bob. Sometimes it's muddy.
Well, I mean, go ahead, Ms. Baldwin.
Yeah, I mean, that was,
Leave me in the mud.
I just asked his opinion about it. And we didn't really talk about it a lot, that was just basically the statement he made. And I talked to him about the guaranteed maximum price, and I see in what Mr. Fearley has sent us for this meeting, the documentation, and it says that we can refuse, or we can say we don't like the guaranteed maximum price, and I guess we can then negotiate that, is that correct? If we don't like this, there's certain stipulations.
well, then
There's a
that gives
30-day
us
period.
we don't like that price, why?
Mhm.
Is it our program, is it the cost of materials? Is it something about the design that we want to tweak if our goal is to get the building to a certain point? So, yeah, we have an interaction, and so does our architect, with them to, when we look at that that, we're gonna get a heads up before that we actually get the number as to where we are. And that's the magic of this integrated delivery system, that we're gonna get a heads up real quick. And Mike is gonna be able to tweak his design so that we end up at our target.
Right now, rather
Yeah,
than at the
not at
end of
the
the
end.
project, you've got a contractor waiting to go, prices are gonna expire in 90 days, you've gotta negotiate, and it's all kinds of, it's a big mess. And at the end, I've got a big lengthy redraw. If I do it right now, I'm in the early stages, I don't like that, that's just I just tear that up electronically and go to something new. I don't have a whole set of plans ready to go. So it's a good delivery method. It really is.
Yeah, I'm just concerned we're gonna pay too much for this school, because we're not bidding it out to
It
the
is
general
being bid.
contractors.
It
It is being bid to.
Well, the subcontractors
No, the
will.
first tier comes to the first tier subcontractor is a general contractor.
So the three people we interviewed today, I'm calling them general contractors, and maybe I'm using the wrong word, because they are, that CM at risk. So they will hire a general contractor?
They will bid out to find the first tier subcontractor, they'll bid it out to find the general contractor. I mean, it's not under the traditional method, that's the general contractor, then you have your first tier subcontractors. Here, the first tier is the general contractor, and then they'll bid out, they'll go down further down the road to get second, third, and fourth tier contractors. So it's the same method. I mean, you just have somebody else doing that work for you and vetting it up front.
But except that you will never see the bid pricing from in a regular bid, design, a bid, build scenario. You'll never see their bids. The only number you'll ever see is the big number at the end. And then they'll give you a schedule of values that they've played with, and it's not accurate. So you'll get an opportunity to see subcontractors' pricing on every level, so that if you really have an issue with the one subcontractor, you could go to the next one at that point in time too. And it gives you an opportunity to see if there's somebody who's forgotten something. And it also is a much better way of checking the scope of the work that those subcontractors are going to provide to you. On bid day, you have no opportunity to do that. Those numbers are coming in fast and furious. They've got people sitting in the parking lot waiting to write the numbers down to bring them in to me to read. But this CMAR delivery method, those come one at a time. You can examine them to make sure the scope is correct, that everybody, that subcontractors have all the elements of the work that they're supposed to do included in their work. There are no exclusions, all things that general contractors have to live with. And ultimately, it comes out towards y'all. I mean, they're in it to make a living. They're not gonna pass a loss along very likely.
And I know in our contract we approved with you, you had put kind of an estimated price in there that I mentioned during one of the
Yeah.
sessions, between 19, it was like 19 point something.
19,050,000.
Okay.
And that's just based on a conversation, that's not a scientific methodology at all.
So we have no idea if this guaranteed maximum price is gonna be close to that, or do we?
The guaranteed maximum price is a method of getting, if you have a price that is set, then you have to have a building designed to that price, no matter what. So if you have to remove some of the buildings, some portions of the programmatic needs to achieve that price, you can do it at that point in time. However, it can be a floating thing. If you have programmatic needs that come forth and they've increased the budget, but you really feel like you need them, then you can approve a higher guaranteed maximum price if you can, and you can shoot to that. So it's a better delivery method from my perspective, to allow the board to interact and to interface with that contractor more than just at the bid day 10 minutes before you're supposed to start the construction.
And I guess, like Isaac Dixon, where they've discovered all this debris and it's adding to the cost of the school.
Mhm.
Do you know what that's doing to that guaranteed maximum price that they must have given,
It's
that they had already
increasing it.
agreed on? Well, I mean, can their school board hold them to that guaranteed maximum
No.
price?
They've increased the scope of the work that the contractor's doing.
It wasn't in the
And they-
original, it wasn't
If
the
it
in the original
was-
thing.
They
They
had a
were
very
the
solid-
If it
landfill.
was if in a building, if it was the building, yes, they could. But this is underground, you
Yeah.
can't drill holes in every square foot of the site.
They had a very sizable contingency,
Oh, yeah.
a huge contingency, and there's a dump, they found a dump.
Mhm.
They found actually an old car, a rail car down there, so I mean, they have no way to,
Did they really?
Find Jimmy Hoffa.
yeah.
A rail car?
That's what they say, they dumped
How
all
did you
these.
get a rail car there?
Well, it was a dump, they bought all this stuff down there and dumped it
Dumpster.
after
I
20
found Jimmy Hoffa.
Back then, that was the way to do it. If you had a ravine,
Fill it.
everybody throw stuff in.
Fill it, put dirt over it,
Yeah.
build a building on it.
Well, they ought to use that rail car in some kind of their construction.
Well, they found it in lots of pieces,
Oh, not as a.
not fully intact.
Okay. Then Dusty
Well,
thinks
then
they found Jimmy
archaeologists
It is solved.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the last point, I know you guys are tired of dragging this out, but our policy 6441, the bidders list, I just want to make sure that we are not in conflict with our own policy. It says the board encourages processes that will foster competition among potential bidders. And I don't think the CMAR fits this at all. And I don't know, is this attorney man?
Well, I
Chad, is
think,
this a
I think, I
conflict?
wouldn't agree with you on that. I think, you know, if we were just having them go and find one bid on each subcontract, you might have that situation, but I mean, you're gonna have multiple companies bidding on every item in the school, and so I just, I think you're doing exactly what that says.
Yeah, in my opinion, it's just the opposite of
Mhm.
just the opposite of what you said. I think it fosters more competition and greater access to what you see, and you're a better fiduciary of your money with the CMAR. Because you can see everything instead of just relying upon your GC.
Mhm.
And also, the packages all have very detailed scopes attached to them, which means a good detailed description of the work that contract would have in it. In our normal process, I can't do that. It is all out there, and subcontractors pick and choose what they want to do or not do, and then give a price. And it's impossible on bid day to determine, did they have it all in there? Whereas if you issue a detailed scope, it's very easy to determine, did you have it all in there? It says no exclusions right on there.
Yes, if you get one way out of whack bid,
Way out of whack, you can go,
so
what's
you
wrong
can,
with
you
it?
go back and look at it and say, all right, well, he left this out, or he added this, and so it does make it, I mean, anytime I bid something and I'm the low bidder by a long way, I'm worried.
Yeah.
So it.
In any of the negotiated, when we have projects, some of them come in under, some of them come over, and here's our budget. When I've negotiated projects with contractors, guess what I've found? They have double counted some things sometimes. And in the other process, we don't get to capture that. Well, when you're negotiating a project, because it went over budget and you're trying to get it within our budget, the owner gets to capture that double counting. Because the contractor opens his book just like the CMR will. So I would agree with Chad that your fiduciary is so much better. There's not going to be double counting that the GC would get the benefit of. That's a happy accident that he finds, and he never volunteers that to us.
Yeah, but it seems though, with the traditional bidding process, you can always throw out a bid that's way too low if it's you know, and you can always talk to the contractor that submitted that
No, you
bid.
can't.
Really?
Yeah,
They'll
that's,
sue
that's
you.
inviting to war.
Go to court.
They can withdraw their bid,
Yeah.
But
correct?
you can't
Right.
throw out a bid that's like 5
Not if
million.
they want it.
Not if they're
everybody else.
pre-qualified. You pre-qualified them and they're in here and they give a low bid and you fire them, then you have got yourself a lawsuit.
Well, then if you take their low bid, they have to come through.
Yeah, but guess
You
what
have a
they're
lot.
gonna
Yeah,
try to do?
yeah, guess what you're gonna get though.
You're gonna get what you pay for.
Yeah.
And you're gonna have to park on that job and watch them because they're trying to recover
You get changed
their
ordered
losses.
to death.
Yeah, it's
Which is,
not a good thing.
Well, we have a facilities director to make sure they stay on task. Yeah, I mean, I disagree with Mr. Donahue because I don't think this process fosters competition among, there are no potential bidders for this
Mr. Chair,
CM at
can we
risk.
stay on the topic of trying to select one of these guys?
All right. Any other questions or comments about these three C construction managers at risk?
I will say, I just told Tim, the only person who I know that read the contract was Hickory, because they came to me and gave me comments about it. They seemed like they had reviewed it and had questions and pointed them out. Neither of the other two, I mean, maybe they had, I don't know, but.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Clyde. Looks like two of them live, two of the four they profile here live in the actual, one in Etowah, one in Clyde, the other two live in
And if you look at their booklet, I mean, their prices, I know you gotta adjust for inflation, but they were low. The schools they built, they didn't cost much. I know it was like 2004 and 2008, I believe, was one, which is similar, is when the Koontz and Evelyn started, and the price was right in line with Koontz and Evelyn's price. It might have been a little higher, but we ended up spending more, you know, because of.
The only way that makes matters, at least to me, is if you've got the same footprint, same size school, and same programs, and the same amenities and buildings,
I mean, you can look at the price per square foot.
but it's still, I mean, I can go to three different areas of Buncombe County, and I can find 2,000 square foot homes with great difference in price based on what's in them. How are they made, what types of materials, you know, all those types of things. Without knowing that information that you just presented doesn't help me. I was concerned, and I don't know why, somebody helped me with this in the table. There's not a lot of recent, at least not that they showed us, not a lot of recent schoolwork with Hickory, schoolwork. And the ones they focused on that they wanted us to see in this presentation, one was 1996. Where did it go? Early days.
2004.
2004, 2008, most recent was 2008. Now, I hate to be, I feel like I'm splitting hairs because I think
No, we
we're
have
that
to.
close. Should that mean anything?
Well, yeah.
In other words, we didn't do this. This is what they presented to us.
They amazingly, 2008, the same year we started the Koontz and Evelyn schools, I believe, was it?
I mean, one of the
Yeah.
strengths I had for Beverly Grant was that they've done, or for Barnell's, they've done a ton of schools.
Yeah. That was, that jumped out.
Yeah, they've done a ton of schools. I also think it's, and I don't know, this is just more from my business background, I guess, or my real estate background, but it seems like prices of construction vary so greatly, even across North Carolina, that but they make up for that in the fact that they are doing the middle school
Here in
in
Asheville.
Asheville. If they hadn't been doing that, it wouldn't, you know, it wouldn't be really a positive, but they've done so many schools, and they've done one here in Asheville, so they
Right. I think I get what you're saying.
It's a lot easier to drill through sand than it is to drill through rock.
Yeah, well,
Is that why?
the Jimmy Drawn High School that Hickory Construction did in 2008. They actually came in under the bid price when they completed it. It was $18.6 million. This is a high school at 162,000 square feet, and I think you said the Evelyn and Coots were like 110 or less thousand. So
Yep.
much smaller schools than this high school. I mean, 18 million is a fabulous price. That's incredible.
John, you talking about John was 18 million?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was
Yeah,
a
but
much
that
larger
was
school.
quite a few years ago.
Those same years as Coots and Evelyn, which came
Oh,
in
that's a
15 and
completion
16.
year and a start year. Those are two different
Yeah.
things. You
They
started
built
that
those two
work.
high schools at the same
That's
time,
you're
I
right.
believe.
You started that work in probably.
So a little earlier.
Doesn't really say.
Right.
It says 140,000, 18,875, what it costs, yeah.
What do we do, Mr. Chair? Wait on Amy?
Well, should we hold?
What do we call it?
Not a vote, take a poll of the table. It sounds to me like we've eliminated one.
Yeah.
And are we, maybe an informal poll of,
We can, yeah.
not a vote, but an informal poll of those two. I think we're at 3-3, but there's been some folks not speaking as much. Would that be helpful, or does that just
I think it's a good idea.
drag things on?
If you're for Barnhill, Beverly, raise your hand. Okay, there we go.
You didn't ask. You didn't
Okay,
count.
who's for Hickory?
Oh my God. Doesn't the board chair's vote carry more weight?
No.
So Tim's gonna have to decide.
Don't you?
I'm just teasing.
Can we call Amy and get her on speakerphone?
She's still civil.
It was Hickory.
Is there anybody,
I think all
anybody
of us-
wishy-washy?
I mean, the thing is, I think all of us are, I mean, at least I could go either way too.
I can go either way. I mean, I'm not gonna stick my heels.
When the opposite people, yeah, go either way.
I'm pretty strongly for
What
Beverly
did you
Grant.
say?
It's not good when the opposite people say it.
Yeah, they just
Yeah.
cancel each other out.
The gift of magi here.
I'm gonna make a motion that we
That
go
we
with
close
that we
our
go with
eyes.
Hickory Construction Company.
I'll second that motion.
All right, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
4-2.
4-2, who are the
Yes.
two? Pat and
Dusty.
Dusty.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Want to do it again? I'll vote the other way.
That was what you over last time.
Listen, I just, Tim, if you'll let them know that
This was an extremely
Extremely
difficult
difficult.
decision.
I will just say for the record that I texted Amy and asked her based on her present, or the information that she had, if she had a preference. And,
She said,
but
"Leave me alone, I'm eating seafood."
Yeah, no, she said that, I mean, she just didn't, she did have a preference, but she wasn't here for the presentation, so, I mean, it does make it kind of tough to, break a tie that way, but Ann, I appreciate,
My willingness to.
Well-
Amen.
I don't know, what do you do with, I guess we would have had to,
We sat here all night.
yeah, till we made a decision, so,
Because I really liked that Beverly Grant.
yeah, listen, I really think.
I took one for the team.
We would have gotten a good building with all three of them. I mean, I really do, so, all right, the board has made its decision. We are adjourned.
But there's more action
Oh,
Yeah,
on the
there's an action item.
negotiations.
okay,
There's one.
yes. I would like to also make a motion that we authorize Mr. Fairley to begin negotiations for construction manager at risk and for an alternate if those negotiations are not successful. So I guess, do we need to pick the alternate?
Yeah.
So my motion would
Oh, that
also
would be
include,
hard.
the alternate would be
Beverly.
Beverly
Barnhill.
and Barnhill. Making that as a motion all at one time. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Ooh.
Okay. You have some information for us?
I think Chad would be best. He introduced that new legislation, and maybe you could give him a heads up on what's coming, Chad.
Yeah, the whole way you do pre-qualifications have been changed by general statute. It's kind of been, the board has to adopt a generalized method and then a specific method for each project, beginning October 1st. So the good news is for the side package, that can go under the old, the way you're currently doing business, which is good. For the new project, we'll have to, and the one caveat to this is for construction managers at risk, you must have pre-qualifications for first-tier subcontractors. So we will have to develop this policy and make it specific to this project. So that is being drafted as we speak. Walter Curry is doing that, and we'll have it to you for your review on the September 4th board meeting.
Is that gonna be enough time for
We need to do it then.
It's got to, you have to adopt it then.
that September 4th?
And we'll certainly have it out as quick as we can.
Yeah, if you can,
We can't adopt it.
we can waive,
You can waive.
we can waive the reading.
You waive the readings,
Okay.
yeah. But you gotta have it quickly in order to,
Yeah, if you can get that to everyone as soon as possible, so that if there's any questions or anything about it, we have a chance to address those, so.
absolutely. And you all you'll have your input as to what you want, but it's fairly standard stuff. I mean, you saw what was included in their packet. I mean, that's pretty much what you'll be looking at. So we'll get it to you as quick as we can. But it'll have to be acted on the 4th.
Mike?
Mr. Chairman, in my schedule, I had tomorrow is the date to put out the bid package for the site. My site plan is about ready, and within a few days it will be ready. It had some to go review, and then we really do need to get that whole affair started. I need the CMAR to help me with that, to start that event. And I would take it that no one's gonna start anything until they have an approved, at least verbally approved contract kind of sitting in place. Is there any way that you can have action tonight that would allow staff and attorneys to work on that and get something going for some kind of approval for at least the site package portion of the total 4-part contract?
Mr. Chad?
Yeah, we can,
I mean, we can do that right now.
I mean, if I can meet with
That's what he said.
Hickory tomorrow and then Monday we, start going through the site package to, fine tuning it and working through the deal. We have an estimate now that has quantities and other things that we can present to them as a running head start for that. But the sooner I can get these people truly working in earnest, the better the board's gonna be, because then I can start. Weather's coming. I mean, I don't know when, but it's coming. The sooner I
I
can
mean, it's
start.
raining every day now.
It was cold this morning.
So it would be just
Can I
a
ask a
site
question?
yes.
The pre-con site.
to authorize.
Yeah, you could authorize superintendent to enter into a contract delegate him to, on your behalf, delegate to enter into a contract with the CMAR for the pre-con site work
Only,
only.
only,
And we can
okay.
get that started as soon as we get it going.
So that would not necessarily affect any negotiations for the
For
remainder of
big
the project?
Right.
No.
No, okay.
Well, my question about that is, are we sure it wouldn't? Because did you just say you would have to give them specifics and dollar amounts? Which
Well,
if you give that to the CMAR before we
My
negotiate.
contract encumbers me to provide a estimate on phases and portions of the work and to reconcile it with the CMAR's estimate. His is gonna be more scientific and detailed than mine will be, so, we have to agree and then present that to y'all for approval. So we have, the first portion of that work is the site package. So I've got to get them on board to give their estimate and then present that to y'all for approval to move forward with that.
This will be done probably, but would the CMAR be willing to do that before they've entered into a contract with us?
Well-
You have 4 contracts, I believe, and Chad, if I'm wrong on that. You have a pre-construction contract and a construction contract. And in the case of our project, it's another contract inside of that, the site package. So pre-construction on the site, a construction on the site. And the site would theoretically be almost finished by the time we get the construction package on the building negotiated with the contractors and give authorization to go forth with that.
And in our draft contract, we anticipated this, and we basically had a section which says we will agree to a site package contract. I mean, it's referenced in here, but we don't have anything hard yet, so knowing that we're gonna have to jump on that.
Okay.
We could roll it into everything into this document, but, I mean, it's likely gonna take a little more time than the site package piece.
How long do you anticipate negotiation with the CMAR? Tim, I mean, I don't have a feel for that.
Well, I
Is it
think the
30
site
days or-
package negotiation will be, will be relatively quick. But, I think it's a couple of back and forth. I think we couldn't get it to you, until that September meeting if we're lucky. But he stopped. He basically can't
Right.
move forward without it. And you heard everyone say this site package is critical to the timing of it,
Yeah.
because we're gonna have a couple of months where we're dead
You
in the
gotta
water.
get the dirt moving, I get that, but
I think it's a very minimal risk. It sounds to me like it would be kind of a minimal, I mean,
And then we'd come back to you with
Yeah.
the terms of the remainder of the contract, and that's the much
sure.
higher dollar amount.
Yeah, it's not like we're spending 3/4 of
This
our.
package for the site, we're talking $2.6 million.
0.6 to 2.8, it's up
It's a
there.
I would say it's a relatively small contract compared to the
Sure.
19 million, this is a small part, but very critical to the success of the project, in my opinion.
So understood Chad correctly, we can make a motion that we authorize Tony to do that for us?
Yes, move forward with the site
The site contract.
Okay.
contract.
I'd like to make that motion.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any questions?
Thank you.
I think mine have been answered. I don't think any more, I guess is what I'm saying. They have been answered.
It's gotta be done. The site work's gotta be done.
And
Oh,
send-
No matter.
Either it's going to get started next week,
Yeah.
or it's going to get started at the end of at the middle of September. So
The risk would be that we go ahead and do this, but we don't come to terms on the other one. I mean, is that the,
We have to pay them for that portion of
I
the
mean,
work
that's
that
the
they've
only, I
done.
mean, that's the risk that I see, right? Is there another risk that
Oh.
I'm missing?
I see that we weren't able to come to terms.
Yeah, I mean, is
on
that
the?
the,
Oh, I see what you're saying, yeah, I think
Is that
that's.
the-
well, yeah, I mean they're going to do this when they say you didn't build the site the way.
right,
you didn't
and
build
that would be the risk.
That's
that-
the risk associated with it.
Yeah.
Versus
They
But I
have
mean, I'm
looked at
fine with
this
that.
already.
It helps to know what the risk is.
Everyone had a chance to look at
That
that.
they've looked at it,
Okay.
and really, Chad has said that their comments were minimal. Hickory's the only one. So it really will come down to what the guaranteed maximum prices will drive this, that second contract.
Right.
The terms aren't gonna kill it.
Didn't move forward, but I think they did. Okay.
So should we have had this on the agenda? I mean, is this something we should have been aware of before the meeting that we needed to do?
Well, I mean, ideally, it would, I mean, but we're in, action, session now. And
Pretty
it's
much talking
directly
about this.
related to what we were discussing previously. And so I don't think that we're that we're out of line by going ahead and approving this. I mean, if it was something totally unrelated to the construction manager at risk and the moving forward with the property, I would be a little bit more inclined to agree with you. But,
Well, we have a policy that we can't make motions from the floor, we have to turn them in 7 days in advance. Are we?
well, it's up to the board to decide. If they don't want to vote, you can vote no. Or if you don't approve, you can vote no. If you do approve, you can vote yes.
I just wanna know if we're gonna follow our policy
Is there any,
consistently.
you see
or
any
not.
problem with us taking a vote on this?
I mean, you're in a position where you need to take a vote. I mean, you
Sure.
need to get moving.
Sure.
And we're, you know, this was not something that was easily recognizable until we're getting down to it. And, you know, I don't, the public was here, this was a public meeting, they had the opportunity to see it, see what's going on here today. I don't take issue with it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you know, if you feel your internal policy does not allow you to do this, I mean, you can waive your policy and vote on it right now. If you feel your policy doesn't allow you to do this, then you don't do it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Any other questions or discussion?
I mean, I feel the policy does not allow us to do this.
Okay, we'll vote no then.
Duly noted. Okay.
Like Mr. Donahue said, we can waive the policy.
Well, in essence, that's what we'll be doing. I mean, do we need a separate vote on to waive the policy, or?
If you want to, yes, if you want to waive your policy and add this to the agenda for right now, have a motion, take the vote.
Can we
Okay.
include that in the motion? That-
We'll just,
You like to suspend whatever policy that number it is in order to be able to amend your agenda tonight to take this action.
So moved.
okay. Is there a
Second.
second? Okay. All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Okay. All right, so back to,
Now you'd like to, Mr. Chairman, will you take this as a form of the motion? You would like to amend the agenda for the special call meeting to include an action item as for the superintendent to be able to enter in negotiations, enter into a contract on the board's behalf for the pre-con portion of the site work.
So are you gonna help me get that together?
Yeah, well, you gotta put it on the agenda now.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, I understand.
Where do I put that in order here?
We'll make sure Miss Connie has that before we
Well,
do
you want us
anything
to
else.
skip?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
All right, so we have that as a motion to add it to the agenda. Okay, and do we have a second? Do we have a
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Okay. All right, so now, now we're voting, do we need to make the motion again, I guess?
Go ahead and make it again.
All right, the motion is that we authorize the superintendent to enter into negotiations for the pre-construction part of the site prep.
And execute the contract on behalf of the board.
And execute on the contract on behalf of the board. All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, any questions or discussion?
So normally, let's say, if we were doing a traditional bid process, would that have been included in what the general contractor would bid? Or would this have been a separate issue?
They're still gonna
Is
bid.
that making sense?
It's still gonna be bid. The work will still be bid.
The subcontractors?
Yes, I mean,
I know.
they will issue we're not just saying they can just go and hire somebody. They will have to go and put bids
Right.
out, which they've already sort of,
Exactly.
as you remember, they said they had talked to some folks already. 7, and they said they had 3 that felt like that they could take the job on.
And I guess my question, I'm not phrasing it right, I know. This motion we have on the floor for the site work or prep, is that, if we were doing a traditional process, would we be bidding this separately, or would it have been a part of the whole?
We could do it either
We
way,
could do it either way.
because that was
we
my,
could've-
that was my earlier
Yeah.
Okay,
question.
maybe I was
Yeah,
still trying
yeah,
to
we
figure
could have
out
done it
the
either
same
way.
thing.
I mean, I guess in any construction project, you could pull a portion out if you chose to do so. So,
Okay.
so, yeah.
So the negotiations will be with Hickory Construction for doing the site prep.
The site, yes, as a separate item. But- And then on our behalf, they will go out and solicit bids for that work to be done.
Right.
Did I say anything that's wrong?
Just needed
Okay,
to
just wanna make sure.
You got it right.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. All right, is there any, are we good? We're good, okay.
You go to work.
All right, so I guess we have a motion. Do we even need a motion to close the work, or this session?
Yeah, you
All
might.
right, do I have a motion to
Motion to
end
So moved.
this
Second.
afternoon session? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
So,
Um,
grab something to eat and come back in and we'll do closed session.
Dusty, is this your book?